Hello, hello, my lovely enlightened friends. It's so good to see you. Thank you for being here with me. My name is Michelle. Welcome to Realization Hub. Today's video and episode is about the full moon in Cancer happening on January 3rd at 12:04 a.m. Hawaii time. And it's going to be in the new year, 2026. So happy new year to all of you. Let's go ahead and get started with some of the details of the full moon. First of all, a full moon is going to be a culmination. A full moon is kind of like when we're turning up the energy all the way to 100%. And the energy gets very loud. We can really feel it on a body level. And during this full moon, a full moon can act as a release. It brings something up to the surface. It can be like an emotional release, an energetic release, and it can also be sometimes an ending, a culmination, or something that gets illuminated that we had not yet seen before. And a full moon can overall act like a turning point in our own personal journeys. So, this full moon is going to be in Cancer at 13 degrees in Cancer. And Cancer is a cardinal water sign. It's feminine zodiac sign. This is a very watery full moon. It's a very intuitive full moon. It's a very sensitive, emotional full moon. So you might want to grab a box of tissues and have them around you the days before, the days after this full moon, because Cancer is one of the most sensitive zodiac signs out there. So is Pisces. But Cancer is definitely one of them. And so some of the themes that tend to come up to the surface around a Cancer full moon, just generally speaking, are themes related to our emotional safety, how we feel, how we connect with people that we love. Oftentimes, it can bring up themes of our own family connections, our roots, our ancestry, our ancestral patterns, our ancestral wounds, the patterns and the energy dynamics that we experience with our own family that play out with other close relationships that we care about. Cancer can be very protective in that it wants to protect those that are vulnerable, protect those that are sensitive, and oftentimes, when you're really working with this energy of Cancer, you'll find yourself just wanting to be around the people that you love, connect with them, spend more time with them, cherish each other's feelings, share a good meal around the table, nourish each other. It can sometimes be like a very nourishing, motherly, kind of cozy energy. Now, Cancer is so emotionally sensitive. It's kind of like the crab with that protective shell. On the outside, it might look like it has thick skin, but that's because on the inside, it's oh so sensitive and tender and vulnerable. And this full moon will certainly turn up the volume with that energy. Full moons act like a rebalancing point during the zodiac season that opposes it. So in this case, we are in Capricorn season during this full moon. The sun will be at 13 degrees opposing the moon, as it always does during a full moon here. And this full moon is kind of special because not only is it a full moon that opposes the sun and acts as a rebalancing during the season of Capricorn, but we also have a lot of planets that are transiting through Capricorn at this time that are actually really close to the sun. And that's actually not the best placement for transiting planets. The sun is a luminary, right? It shines light, it brings clarity, it brings consciousness to things. And when we have planets like any planet that's like really close to the sun is very conjunct to the sun. Um, Oftentimes that can burn out some of these planets. It can kind of burn out the qualities of those planets and bring out some of the faulty qualities of those planets, kind of weaken the energy, so to speak. And so I find that interesting. There's something about this full moon where we have this tension coming up. We have this rebalancing that's coming up. We have the full moon not only opposing Venus, but we have it opposing Mars in Capricorn. Mars is exalted in Capricorn. It does really well there. Mars is that planet of our masculine energy that wants to take action, get things done, be direct, move through challenges. And Capricorn is a very mature, responsible, future-oriented energy. It's always kind of considering our long-term responsibilities, our long-term goals. And so Mars does really well here, taking action that aligns with our legacy, that aligns with what we're building over time, aligns with mature actions, more responsible actions, more actions that are going to be to our benefit in our long term. And then we have Venus here, in this conjunction and opposing this full moon. Venus in Capricorn, Venus is a sign of feminine energy, our feminine energy, and it's a sign of how we relate to each other, our hearts, our values, money, and even beauty and aesthetics. And to have Venus and Capricorn, we might be a little bit more prudent with our money. We might be thinking about how we spend that in a wiser way. We might be more responsible with our money. We might value our long-term goals together, like how we work with other people, how we come together with other people for our long-term goals, for our ambitions. We might value maturity, responsibility, commitment, being reliable, showing up, doing the work. Um, and like I mentioned, these three, Venus, the Sun, Mars, are in this tighter opposition here to the full moon, which means it brings up this tension, it brings up this opposition, it brings up this energy of really balancing out this Capricorn energy with the Cancer energy. And so, what this balance usually brings up is the balance between our long-term goals, the way we put our action and values into the world in responsible ways to the point where we're trying to physically manifest something into the world, structures, systems, boundaries, things that we can actually see and hold and use that function practically for us, that contain us, that support us in some way, that bring stability to our lives in some way. That energy is being balanced out with Cancer, which is all about our emotional connections, how we connect to each other from the heart, how we nourish our emotions, our emotional security, how we feel. Capricorn can get a bad rap sometimes for being kind of cold and ambitious. But really, Capricorns care quite a lot about other people. They do care quite a lot, but they're kind of here to get a job done. They kind of have to do the adulting that no one else really wants to do. They have to show up and take care of business, whether it's their own business or, the work that they're doing in the world or whatever they're manifesting physically in the world. Capricorn's got a lot of work to do, right? And it's focused on the work, it's focused on the job, and it kind of has to put those emotions to the side to really show up and just get everything done, to do the work, to get it done. Oftentimes, Capricorn energy can be misunderstood on that level because they might be coming across as, oh, they don't care about others, or oh, they're too busy, or oh, they're not, nurturing their relationships well. Um, And that's what this full moon is all about. This full moon is all about balancing that out. It's giving us a moment of clarity. It's illuminating something for us to be aware of our own feelings, for us to be aware of our own emotions and our own emotional connections. If we're feeling safe in a situation, if we're feeling safe in certain relationships, if we're feeling like we're emotionally seen in relationships, if we're connecting well with our relationships. This is about emotional vulnerability in our close relationships, especially family relationships, the ones that you would call family, close friends. So when I was feeling into this full moon, I started to see a very sentimental, kind of nostalgic energy, almost like a love story. If you've ever seen like one of those movies where like two people are falling in love and they have a strong connection, but maybe one person like has to say goodbye and get on the train and leave the town because they have a job to do or they have some work to do or they have some kind of purpose that they need to fulfill and they have to choose that purpose over their relationship and leave the relationship behind and they're both looking through the windows of the train, at each other from the train station and in the train, like through the window and they're like kind of crying and like looking at each other like we love each other so much, but I have to take care of business. I have to do this thing. And so that's kind of the quality of the sappy love, kind of wounded story that I feel about this full moon that might be coming up more on like a collective level or like a personal level. And really, what I was feeling about that sappy, woundy love story is that we can't have both things at once, and that's the wound that I feel coming up around our work, our long-term goals, and the connections that we cherish and the connections that we want to nourish in our lives, the relationships that we want to have in our lives. How many times have you had to choose some kind of practical, responsible thing like a duty or responsibility or a goal or like a job where you had to put your work first. You had to put something sobering first. You had to deal with something hard first. You couldn't nurture your relationships the way you wanted to. You couldn't connect with people you wanted to. You had to leave people behind. You had to put people to the side. You had to neglect your own feelings. You had to suppress how you were truly feeling. You would have to, cover up your vulnerabilities and just get the job done. Like, how many times have you had to choose, work and business over your own feelings? And where have you had to choose, a job or a higher, you know, ambition over connecting with people that you wanted? Where have we been wounded around not being able to have both of those things? And I sense that this full moon is bringing up some type of wounding around not being able to have everything, not being able to have our long-term goals being met and our responsibilities being taken care of, while also having connection with our relationships and having that love and nourishment and emotional care that we all need, having our emotional needs met in those relationships. And the healing process that we go through around this full moon to help us open our hearts more, to help us release the old wounding, and to help us open up to receiving more, having more. Now, here's where things get interesting because when I'm looking at this full moon, we have the full moon in a wider conjunction with Jupiter, which is exalted in Cancer. Now, Jupiter is retrograde in Cancer, so it's more internal and reflective and deeper within us, kind of like an inward growth process, an inward reflection process, where we were probably reflecting on our own moral system, our own inner belief system around our family, our relationships, the ones we care about, our ancestry, our hearts, our emotional intelligence, how we feel, our sense of security, our sense of emotional security, emotional safety. Like these are all things that we might be reflecting on around this time, going through an inner growth process and reviewing our own belief systems and reviewing our own ancestral patterns around this. Now, Jupiter is going to be in a square, a pretty tight square, with Chiron, the wounded healer, which means on the outside, this might be objectively challenging, this type of healing work that you're doing, that we're all doing, but it is ultimately very beneficial. Now, Chiron in Aries is all about bringing up those wounds where it's about us as individuals and how we have had difficulty asserting our needs as individuals in a relationship, how we've had difficulty possibly having a type of self-confidence or courage or momentum in the way we um, move towards, our desires. And with it squaring Jupiter and Cancer, this could certainly bring up ancestral wounds for a lot of us, family wounds for a lot of us. Just literally, family stuff that we need to clear and release and forgive and let go of. But also just on a close relational level, anyone that you might consider family could fall under this full moon and be a reflective experience that helps you release this kind of wounded energy. Now, the full moon is in a trine to the North Node in Pisces, kind of bringing us in a new direction of growth and development in our emotional safety and in our emotional growth. And that would be to be more forgiving, have more compassion. Pisces is a sign that's very sensitive as well, and very spiritual and creative, compassionate and forgiving, and fluid and adaptable. And, this is where we are growing in a new direction together spiritually, bringing in more compassion, forgiveness. But with this trine here to the full moon, it's it's kind of like a heart opening. It's kind of like with Jupiter in a trine to Neptune and Saturn here, it's bringing up a lot around our long-term goals and how we include um, our emotional safety in those long-term goals, how we manifest our dreams in a way that feels safe, and where we can be in a transition towards our long-term goals and still believe in ourselves, still have optimism, still have faith, even though we must work through obstacles, we must potentially separate um, from, some things that we care about emotionally versus some of our responsibilities. Or maybe we need to balance that out and put more of some things that we care about emotionally in front of our responsibilities. Everyone's going to be working through a bit of a different dynamic here. But ultimately, what I see happening is where we're opening more, we're growing more, we're going to be receiving more so that we can have more, to have this kind of dynamic with Pluto and Uranus and the sextile to Neptune and Saturn. I'm really sensing that we're at a time right now on Earth collectively where there is some major burnout happening. We all are carrying a wound of putting in so much work to build this world and for it to not be really working for us on a level of on the level of humanity. Like it's not really supporting us, it's not sustaining us. And a lot of people are working a lot and getting less and less and less in return, and they're feeling burnt out and they're being deprived of their emotional needs. They're having less time to connect with the ones they love, and it's turning into, a very unsustainable experience for a lot of people. And I really see this as a full moon that not only illuminates like our emotions and what we need, and maybe what's missing, and maybe what we need more of, maybe what we need to release in order to have more, but it's also illuminating things about our systems. How can we grow and embrace more systems, more technology, more organization, more refinement in our routines, more commitment to routines, refinement, order, and technical systems that can support us, that can let us reach our responsibilities and our goals with more efficiency and productivity so that we actually have more time, more energy to actually be creative, to actually connect with those that we love, to actually come together more like a family, with our friends and family and local communities or communities that we want to be close with. Where can we have this energetic release and start to, on an energetic level, have all that we need? Have both our goals, our long-term goals, what we're building, our responsibilities being taken care of, being able to have that transition of like physically manifesting exactly what we want to build in our lives for our long-term benefit, as well as having the time and space and energy to connect, to get our emotional needs met, to be creative, to heal. We are going to be having some other things happening here. This square that we have here with Neptune, with Mercury and Capricorn squaring Neptune. It's coming out of that square, but it'll be kind of louder because it's the full moon. And around the full moon, it might just be a time where mentally we're not very clear. We're not seeing things clearly. We might be confused. We might be delusional. We might be experiencing manipulation in our relationships. We might just feel a lot of spiritual fog. I mean, we might be unclear. Honestly, what I'm sensing into about this full moon is we're not going to be clear in our heads because we're going to be releasing energy around this full moon. It's going to be an emotional release. I don't know if a spiritual release, it's going to be a type of opening and growth that we're experiencing in our hearts. And I don't know if you've ever had one of those days where you're just like emotionally crying a lot, or you're having a big growth period where you're releasing a lot. Sometimes it's super foggy in your brain, like you can't think. Uh, your eyes are puffy, you're swollen from crying, you're just feeling tender, and it's not a day that you can really focus on the details. It's more of the day where you need to wrap yourself in a blanket, make yourself some warm tea, watch a cozy movie, nourish yourself in some way, go talk to a friend. So, around this full moon, it's going to be a good time to ask yourself some questions. And those questions might be something like, how am I feeling right now? Do I feel safe right now? Do I feel safe in my current, emotionally safe in this relationship? Do I feel emotionally safe in this um, dynamic that I'm in my family? Am I feeling emotionally safe in this workplace? Am I feeling emotionally safe? Um, and what do I need to do? What is some practical action that I can take? What is some practical acts of service that I can do to nurture someone else, to show my love, to communicate how I feel? How can I be emotional, tender, and vulnerable, but also grounded and practical and caring in a very practical way? How can I honor um, my feelings and my responsibilities? How can I honor my feelings and my connections and my long-term goals? How can I grow so that I can have more, so that I can have both, so that I can cherish both, so that I can honor both? Maybe you need to carve out time, for loved ones. If you're overworking and burnt out, maybe you need to do something about your schedule. Maybe you need to like block off your time. Maybe you need to slash something off your to-do list. Maybe you need to surrender and be like, okay, I literally can't get all this done. I'm gonna just have to be okay with not everything getting done. Or maybe you need to embrace delays. Or maybe instead of always putting maybe you're always putting, your connections first and you've been delaying your long-term goals. Maybe it's one of those moments where you need to say, hey, my routines are important to me. I need to organize this first. Can you let me handle this first and take care of these responsibilities and bring things into order in my life and organize things and get things grounded in my life so that I have the actual space and the sustainability to connect with you. You know, Capricorn can be all about restrictions and being kind of neglected and deprived in some ways in order to get the job done. And this full moon is illuminating maybe where have I been deprived on an emotional level? Where have I been neglecting my emotional needs? Where can I nourish myself some more? And so this is going to be a great time to take a bath, go swimming, go in the ocean, um, have a salt bath. It's going to be a good time to nourish yourself with a good meal. Maybe schedule a time to go out with a friend, someone that you love, and share a meal together and bond and, share what you're feeling. Maybe it's a time for you to be alone with a tissue box, watching a sappy movie and just letting the tears come out. Um, so this is definitely going to be a healing full moon and a beautiful opening for all of us, opening us up to more love, opening us up to having more, opening us up to utilizing um, our ability to discern, our ability to organize, our ability to ground and create routines and structures so that we can have the time and energy to be creative, to connect with those that we love, and to nourish ourselves emotionally as well. All right, everyone, that's the energy update. It was so good to connect with you. If you're listening to this on YouTube, please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Hit the notification bell so you're notified anytime I upload a video. If you're listening to this on Spotify, feel free to leave me a comment or please rate the podcast. And like I always say, I love hearing from you. I like to hear what resonates, what house this full moon is being illuminated in your chart, what you're going through right now, any questions you might have. I love hearing your comments. It's always a big psychic hug if you comment, like, share this with other people. And if you need any support at any time, you know where to find me. You can find more information in the description box below. If you ever want to get an astrology reading, an energy healing, a psychic reading, or you want to start to develop your psychic abilities and your healing abilities so that you can navigate your spiritual transformations and your relationships with grace, hit me up, let me know, and I'd be more than happy to talk to you about your next steps. Okay, take care, everyone. Bye.